Call to order the Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, June 20th, 2019. Please stand and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Harlicker, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Commissioner Knobloch,
Here.
Commissioner Heikela,
Here.
Commissioner Bradley,
Here.
Commissioner Geisler,
Here.
Commissioner Casey,
Here.
and Commissioner Schmalke, and Chair Schwartz.
Here. Our first order of business this evening is to adopt our agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Heikela, second by Knobloch. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That agenda's been adopted. Next, we have the approval of our minutes from our May 16th meeting.
Chair Schwartz.
Commissioner Knobloch.
I move for the approval of the minutes of May 16th.
Second.
Motion by Knobloch, second by Casey. Any further discussion or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? And the minutes are approved. Our first order of new business is planning case 19-12, preliminary plat for Riverdale 6th Edition, 3200 Main Street, the Red Mill Properties. Mr. Harlicker.
Yeah, Chair and Commissioners, this property is located at the southwest corner of Main Street, Northdale. This is Costco, Famous Dave's, Menards, Target. So it's this lot right here. This is the existing conditions out there right now. With the, I'm sure most are familiar with it. There's a driveway that's fairly close to the intersection. Multi-story office building with drive-through lanes on the backside, surrounded by a field of parking out front, off to the side. What the applicant is proposing to do is to plat this property into two lots, one for the existing building and one for the proposed commercial building. Commercial building will be on lot 2. That lot is it's a smaller one. I believe it's 1.1 acres, and the larger lot for Wells Fargo is 2.9. Both lots meet the dimensional requirements of the general commercial zoning district. And with that, I'll answer any questions on the preliminary plat. Staff is recommending approval of the preliminary plat with conditions that all engineering comments be addressed and all comments from the Anoka County Highway Department be addressed.
Thank you, Mr. Harlicker. Commission, any questions for Mr. Harlicker? All right, hearing none. We do need a public hearing on this matter, so at this time I will open a public hearing in planning case 19-12, preliminary plat for Riverdale 6th Edition, 3200 Main Street, the Red Mill Properties. Anyone wish to speak at the public hearing? Anyone wish to speak at the public hearing? Hearing none, close the public hearing. Commission.
Chair Schwartz.
Commissioner Knobloch.
I have a question. On the graphics, it looks like the building is horizontal to Main Street, but on the plat and on the description, it looks like it's parallel. The widest side of the building is facing north towards, it's in line with Northdale Boulevard, and the small side is north to Main Street. Is that just a visual,
I'm not sure what you're talking about, the proposed building? Or the
Yes.
existing bank building?
not the bank building, the proposed building?
Okay, this building here.
Lot 2, yes,
That would really come under the
1911.
1911 site
All right.
plan.
Yeah.
Because we're not
that's
talking
a-
about any buildings on this plan, or this motion.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Casey,
I'll move in planning case 19-12 that we recommend approval of the preliminary plat with the following conditions. All engineering comments be addressed and all comments from the Anoka County Highway Department be addressed.
Second.
motion by Casey, second by Schmolke. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. This is a recommendation by the Planning Commission and will be heard by the City Council at their July 16th meeting. Next order of business is planning case 19-11, a site plan approval for a commercial building at 3200 Main Street, Red Mill Properties. Mr. Harlicker.
Yes, Commissioners and Chair, this is the proposed site plan. The building here is 6,100 square feet. At this point, they're proposing 2 tenants, but the tenant mix has not been finalized yet. They're proposing 186 parking stalls, which meets the code requirements for parking for the 2 uses. Will be a shared access and some shared parking, so they'll have to draft an easement and a shared parking agreement and access easement between the 2 lots. The proposed building does include a drive-through with stacking behind the building and the drive-through on the south side of the building here. The main access, the only access off of Northdale, is being relocated about 100 feet further south from Main Street. Last year, the city had a traffic study done for the Riverdale area. The intersection here up on Main and Northdale was identified as a problem site. The recommendation in that study was to move this access further south away from the Main Street intersection. So that's been included as part of this development plan. There is a second access existing over here off of Northdale, or excuse me, 124th. Grading, drainage, and utilities have been reviewed by the engineering departments. Their comments are attached. They did do traffic analysis as part of this project. It's my understanding that they just received the completed study today, so they'll be able to answer questions regarding traffic analysis and what they found. I know the city engineer has been working with the developer and the engineering firm doing the study, and he did not foresee any significant issues that would arise from that study. I can get into, here is the grading plan. They are proposing stormwater basins along Northdale Boulevard, one off 124th, and then one in this area here between the buildings. There is a sidewalk connection provided from the sidewalk on Northdale across this drive aisle here to access this building. Then it connects via this crosswalk to the existing building. Staff is recommending that a second connection come from the Main Street sidewalk One possible location would be coming in from the intersection and crossing here. That would catch pedestrians at that intersection and give them a more direct route to the building and to the interior of their site, rather than walking down along Northdale and then crossing at this location here. The landscape plan, they're bringing both sites into compliance with current code. They're planting additional trees and a hedge along Main Street, as well as Northdale Boulevard. They've got internal plantings and foundation plantings around the building, as well as on parking islands and peninsulas in this area here. Landscaping does comply with city code. Exterior elevations, the front of the elevation, the east, faces Northdale Boulevard with canvas awnings over the front. The applicants did bring a material board, so I'll let them get into the more detailed description of the exterior elevations. The elevations as proposed do comply with city code for the mix and type of materials. The dumpster enclosure for the new building is located here. The existing building, I believe it's off this end of the building, right in this location here. Signage, there's an existing pylon sign at this location that will remain. They will be replacing the existing pylon sign near the intersection with a monument sign that's similar to what's shown here. That monument sign, as well as any wall signage on the building, will have to comply with city code and sign ordinance and require separate sign permits. With that, I'll answer any questions. The applicants are in the audience too to give a brief presentation on their project.
Thank you, Mr. Harlicker. Commissioner, any questions for Mr. Harlicker at this time?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Casey.
Mr. Harlicker, point out to me the basins, the
There are
overflow
these
basins
dark areas
again.
here,
Right there.
here, 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 and then a smaller one in this triangle here.
And these aren't underground or
No,
anything?
it's surface basins.
Okay. And as far as the trash enclosure, are you saying the small one on the lot 2 is
Right
going
there.
to service that building only?
Correct.
And then the existing building has
They
their
have
own?
their own separate one.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Heikkila.
Mr. Harlicker, can you show me on the map where the patio area is?
That would be right here on this wider peninsula, right in front of the building. Southeast corner. I think it shows up on the building elevations right here.
Any other questions for Mr. Harlicker? All right, would the petitioner like to make their presentation at this time, please?
Yes, please.
Come up to the microphone, give your name and address for the record.
Sure, good evening, Commissioners. My name is William Bailey. My address is 45 George Street, Excelsior, Minnesota. I'm delighted to be here this evening. I'm the sponsor of this proposal. I'm also the owner of the Wells Fargo building in Coon Rapids at 3200 Main Street. I'm not new to Coon Rapids. I've owned the Sherwin-Williams building and Interstate Batteries building since about 2001. When I first started driving down Main Street to look at my property, I used to look at this building and see green fields all around it. Since that time, obviously it's been built out significantly since then. Today, I believe the Wells Fargo building stands in one of the most vibrant retail markets in the Twin Cities. I also own Carpet King. I have some experience with retail. I'm in 14 different locations in the Twin Cities. I'm also in Riverdale, in the Walmart, an outlot in Walmart on the other side of Highway 10. This evening, I'm presenting to you our proposal to develop the corner lot. Currently, there are 220 parking spots. I need 145 for the office. That gives me 75 to work with. That makes this opportunity possible. I'd like to state that the purpose of this thing is twofold. Number one, I believe that the development's going to be an amenity for the office tenants. I've owned this building. Mr. Stanton died in 2016. It was sold in 2018 to me. It's basically fully occupied right now. I have a small 1,000 square foot vacancy. A retail, hopefully coffee user, I think is going to be complementary to the office tenants. It's going to help me keep them in this office as opposed to going to some other office where they have parking and indoor parking and inside restaurants and retail, which is kind of the way office buildings are going these days. So I do look at this as a complementary use for the office tenants, and it will help me provide some additional amenities to them. In closing, I'd like to say that I believe the plan before you is attractive in many ways. Its design is compatible and complementary to the existing office. It's responsive to the city's wish to move the access point further south on Northdale. It accomplishes the city's vision to orient this building towards Northdale and Main Street, as opposed to an earlier version which kind of turned it around. It meets the parking standards which are required, and again, I believe it's going to add value to my office building tenants. I'd like to thank the City of Coon Rapids staff, Scott Holliker and Mark Hansen. They provided significant feedback in the design stage of this thing, which started, I think, almost 9 months ago. And I'd like to just finally say that while I'm new to the development business here, I've hired what I believe is the A-team here. I've hired Amcon Construction, who's got significant experience in the city of Coon Rapids doing commercial properties, and I think you'll hear from Scott Queering this evening. I've hired Mid-America Real Estate to basically lease out the property. I don't have any signed leases at this time. I've hired Westwood Development, not only to do the civil engineering, but at Mid-America Real Estate suggestion, I hired Bruce Carlson, who has an awful lot of development experience. And I believe he's the fellow who developed the video update that I bought 21 years ago. So I'm trying to do this with the right people that know what they're doing and they know how to navigate, what I need to do to get this thing successfully built. With that being said, if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. In the absence of any questions, I'd like to introduce you to Bruce Carlson with Westwood Development.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman Schwartz and members of the commission. My name is Bruce Carlson. I'm Senior Project Manager for Westwood Professional Services out of Minnetonka. And I didn't know I was going to have to follow talking about video update, my video update days here in Coon Rapids. So that's been a long time ago, and early on in Coon Rapids, it's been exciting to see the growth of Coon Rapids over all these years. And part of the reason I'm up here today is to introduce the team and speak for the team. And we're very excited to be here this evening. A little background, this has been a long work in progress. And I too wanted to thank the staff at the City of Coon Rapids and Scott Harlicker and Mark Hansen in particular. We started working on this over 9 months ago. I was looking back at our files on site plans, and it's over 24 different site plan versions. So what you're seeing here tonight is a hybrid culmination of a lot of work and a lot of thought put into this. There's no one more concerned, I would feel, in this room than William Bailey. When he approached us to help him design this and work on the site plan and start from ground up, it was about an amenity for the office building. So we've always had that in mind. And so the first question that came up for us months and months ago was parking stalls, the number of the parking stalls that were there, and making sure that this was an amenity to the office building and not a detraction, and it wouldn't hurt this. So we spent a lot of time analyzing parking and day part parking and what percentage of different retail uses would be busy at what time, and we submitted a day part parking analysis to city staff, and we've gone over that. We've also, we were asked to do a traffic study. We didn't think we would have it completed by this week, but we did finish it. So we finished the traffic study. We haven't submitted it yet. It was just finished yesterday. It included pictures from the top of the building, an analysis of current conditions right now. So we're very excited to see the preliminary numbers come back very, very favorable for parking. Right now, the maximum amount of stalls being used at a peak hour is only 88 stalls with the office building. And there's 220 stalls that are out there right now. Per code, per current code, we would need 145 stalls. And parking has changed and vehicle use has changed somewhat and continues to change. I was reading articles too about it's the lowest rate of teenager driver's license. Only 71% of teenagers right now have driver's license, lower use for parking and vehicle use for millennials as well. So parking is changing, but we decided not to look at that, and we actually looked at growth. The parking study and the traffic study will talk about growth, and we still feel like we're there. The next thing we wanted to look at after parking was if we were going to have a drive-through, a convenience drive-through for just the general public, and also drive-throughs work really well for parents with children, people with that need accessibility help. Of course, we've got weather concerns here, so although we do not have any tenants signed right now, we do have high interest and we're very close. But we really looked at this building for long-term, not because tenants could come and go. So it could be one drive-through use or another, but the traffic study takes into account the highest volume of users. And we designed this specifically so the drive-through lane would have 14 stalls of stacking, and then another stacking to get to 9 more cars could stack up before they would get to the driveway, so 23 car stack before they would get to the driveway. That's more than I think that I've ever created, so we feel really confident about the stacking here. Our next thing we wanted to look at is just flow through the center. Currently, right now, with the driveway access, it's a straight shot east to west right across to get to the Wells Fargo drive-through lanes. The current design, you'll see, has some traffic calming, so you've got some choices as you come into the site plan, and we feel that's going to slow traffic down and make it safer and just more accessible for everybody. We did a truck movement study through this as required, and that came out working very, very well. And then we added, because it's an amenity, a lot of crosswalk pedestrian access points. There are none right now in the parking lot. So it's kind of everybody on their own, park and find your way in. The other thing that this does here too, if you go back to the old aerial, there's a large plaza and sidewalk in the front of the building. We've brought the parking up right to the front of the building. So for all the accessible spots here and for visitor parking, much more convenient parking for the office. Getting to the building, we can talk more of this later. We're very excited about that. We have 4-sided architecture here. And the other main concern for us is to make sure that the building was compatible and looked like it fit with the existing office building. So keep that in mind as you look at that, not just look at the building, but think about it as the setting and the building behind it. And we have some displays on that. A couple more benefits that are going to come along with this. You asked a question about the stormwater basins. This development brings the site up to code with current watershed standards. So we have areas available to do basins, which we've taken advantage of, and we're going to add those. This also comes with all new landscaping, so we're very excited about that. We feel it's going to look fantastic. I wasn't going to mention the trash enclosure, but it came up. So we were pretty proud of our trash enclosure as well. We got it well hidden, and we're going with roll-up doors. So it's not going to have those swinging doors. And because we're going to have the roll-up doors, and they'll shut and stay shut and designed in a way so a lot of retail centers, those doors never get shut, so people bring the trash in. So the only access for staff is from a side door, and they have to put their trash in there. The roll-up doors are only accessed by the garbage service. So, and we've got it extra large because recycling has been changing, and we want to make sure that we have enough for the future. So they might look small on the screen, but the trash enclosures are very large, and we put a lot of thought into those as well. Last thing I'll say is that we're going to do this construction and phasing, so the office and the bank will stay open at all times. And if you have questions more about the phasing, we're here to answer them or answer any other questions that you might have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Scott Query. I am with Amcon Construction Company, and we are the architect of record and also the construction contractor, general contractor for the project. I did bring a material board, and I'm glad to pass that around so you folks are able to touch and feel that. So as Bruce had commented, we do have a four-sided architectural plan here. Right now we have just a large sea of asphalt out there, and what's current trend in today's market is a lot of these large asphalt parking lots are being infilled with developments such as this as you go around in creating these amenities as Mr. Bailey referenced for those office tenants. So we have, as you see there, we have some canvas awnings, black canvas awnings on there. We have three different types of EFIS product that go around the perimeter of the building. The entire building has aluminum storefront glazing in it, so you can have all four sides are actually the three sides are visible. The back wall is actually all EFIS, but it's designed to mimic the front side with the window shape in there in the EFIS for that. We also have brick that is incorporated in there. The city of Coon Rapids does have certain material classes that have certain percentages, and we have met and or exceeded those percentages. And then we've also showed where potential signage would go on the front side of this building here. And I believe there's a certain square footage that is allowed. I don't believe we're at that maximum square footage right now with what is shown here, but obviously would fit into the city ordinances with those requirements. So one real nice thing, and Bruce alluded to it, is the landscaping. That's just a huge amenity that's being brought to this building. Again, I'll mention the sea of asphalt right at that corner, which is an extremely popular, vibrant corner. And with the additional landscaping here, it's really going to soften that whole intersection and really add a great element to that whole corner, which is, again, extremely busy. So with that, I'm glad to answer any questions that you may have regarding the architecture.
Commission, any questions at this time? Thank you.
Thank you.
May have some later. Does that complete your presentation then? All right, we do need to have a public hearing on this matter, so at this time I will open a public hearing in planning case 19-11, the site plan approval for a commercial building at 3200 Main Street for Red Mill Properties. Anyone wish to speak at the public hearing? Anyone wish to speak? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Commission. Thoughts, comments?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Heiko.
I'm wondering, Mr. Harlicker, without having the official traffic study, is the city comfortable going forward, and can we approve this without the official study being complete?
Yeah, I did speak with the city engineer, and he was comfortable with the condition that was included in the recommendation, that any comments that came out of the traffic study, any issues identified in the traffic study would have to be addressed. He did not foresee any significant issues arising. He did get the study. I don't know if you're in a position to elaborate on any other findings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. My name is Steve Manhart, M-A-N-H-A-R-T. I'm Transportation Service Leader with Westwood and in Minnetonka. We completed the traffic study yesterday and submitted it to the team. Basically, we did a couple of things in the traffic study, and this was based on the recommendations from SEH, the city's engineer for traffic, and that was, we looked at the traffic, existing traffic and proposed traffic, the results would come out of our study. We were also tasked with looking at the parking supply and the future demand. So it was a two-phase traffic study that we had. What we did was we looked at the existing traffic. We took traffic counts at the entrances, both on the east side and on the south side, as well as the two main intersections in the area, the one at Main Street and Northdale, and the 124th and Northdale. We also utilized some data that we got from the Riverdale study that was completed last year by SRF. We then compiled all of that and prepared models showing the existing traffic conditions, the traffic conditions at the year of this, the proposal is complete, and then we looked at the additional traffic that would be generated by the site laid on top of the no-build, what we call the no-build. One thing that came out of our existing analysis, and that was the turn lanes and you probably know this already, the turn lanes at Northdale and Main Street, as well as Northdale and 124th, always seem to be clogged up, and there's a lot of traffic that is going through those intersections in the AM peak hour and the PM peak hour. Those intersections basically function in the AM at level of service E or D and level of service D in the PM peak hour. What is considered a standard in the Twin Cities Metro is anything at a level of service D, E or F are indications that mitigation needs to be done. So there's so much traffic going through those intersections right now that it's at that point, but it's not exceeding that in either of any of those three conditions that we're looking at, either the existing, the no build, or the build for the intersection level of service. And that doesn't change. This study or this project does not create a situation where those conditions, those intersections levels of service differ. They stay at the same levels that they are currently. One thing that is characteristic about a coffee shop is that, as you probably would guess, it draws in a lot of the existing traffic. It is not a single source traffic generator. It draws in traffic from the side streets as people are driving on their way to work or on their way home or to some other location. They will stop in, get some coffee, and then be on their way. That's called a pass-by trip or a diverted trip. What that does is it means that there's existing traffic on the system that diverts into the site and then goes back out. So when we're talking about the numbers of trips that are generated by this type of use, a coffee shop use, that is, for the most part, traffic that's already on the system is just diverting into and out of the site. So when we looked at this, one thing, as was mentioned earlier, one thing that we were proud to see is the relocation of the driveway further to the south. I agree with SEH and the findings of the SRF study that the existing access on the east side of the roadway, or east side of the parcel, is really too close to Main Street and would cause problems as people would be turning from Main Street onto Northdale, and somebody following and not knowing that the vehicle in front of them is about to turn in may cause a crash by not anticipating that. By having a little longer distance for the traffic to separate a little bit, it will be a safer condition. Another thing that is a positive for this site is you do have the maintaining of that south access. So that provides a secondary place where traffic can come in and come out. And that's especially true, I think, for the southbound left turn movement at 124th. Currently, there are a lot of vehicles that come southbound on Northdale and want to turn east onto 124th. I think that while there may be a few vehicles, and we did model a few vehicles coming out of onto Northdale and trying to make that turn, I think the majority of those drivers will learn very quickly that it's easier to come down the south to the south entrance, turn left onto 124th, and then make their move either to go straight on 124th or to turn left to go northbound on Northdale. So when we analyzed everything, nothing really changed in terms of overall intersection levels of service. I'd be happy to have the SEH comment on this and provide their review, but I'm anxious to hear any questions that the Planning Commission would have.
Commission, any questions? Commissioner Schmolke.
So I don't know if this is too specific of a question to ask at this point in terms of the traffic study, but if you can answer, great. Do you know if any consideration was given to add a turn lane coming in off of Northdale Boulevard to take away, some of that that congestion as people are turning into the parking lot?
Madam Commissioner, Chair, and members of the Commission, I don't know, do you have an answer for that?
Are you saying like an additional, a dive down lane, as you're going?
So an actual right turn lane, exactly. So we've got the two lanes, right, and you'd add a turn lane to come into the parking lot. Was that a consideration to help?
We didn't design that or consider that as an option, especially if we felt like it would work as it is. I think the area that you would be thinking of is where we would look at doing the enhanced basins for the rain gardens.
This is true.
that are there for that. So we haven't done any modeling in any of our previous site plans for that.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, I will add that our assignment showed 69 vehicles turning that direction in the morning and 31 in the afternoon, and typically standards are that 100 vehicles or more would create the need for that right turn lane.
Okay.
Thank you for your presentation. Just a couple questions here. As you mentioned, you have the inbound numbers. Do you have the outbound numbers for that Northdale exit itself?
Sure.
You'd said it seemed low, but.
The build numbers, hold on just 1 second, please. We are modeling the actual trip assignment. That means just the traffic that would be generated by this particular site. In the AM would be 22 vehicles, in the PM 26 coming out of that access. And that combines with the existing background traffic to create 25 vehicles in the AM and 41 in the PM.
So with your conversations with city engineering, with the traffic study, was it ever considered to make that a one-way in only and force traffic outbound onto 124th, as you'd said, kind of naturally people would gravitate towards?
No.
Okay, so it's always been meant to maintain a two-way in and out of that?
Right turn in, right turn out, yes.
One thing to add on to this, to point out, just for those watching at home as well, this is a right in, right out, so you can't make a left out of this particular driveway.
Yeah, the comment was just in general of the, cars exiting in, turning into, and cars trying to turn out. When you have both there and a pedestrian crossing, there's a lot of chance for a lot of stuff in that AM and PM hours when you have people walking to the office building, walking from the office building. A lot of cars coming in and out. There's quite a bit going on just right at that first car length inside that turn is my only concern there. But thank you for the information.
I have a question concerning the traffic movement inside the parking lot. Is there any design to have one-way traffic, or is it all gonna be two-way on all aisles?
It's all two-way. Yep.
And as far as the,
Well, I'll take that back. The drive-through for the bank, so, to get through the bank drive-throughs, that's one way. On the west side.
the back part of the bank?
And then the north side of the new building, that also is one way there as well. So there's the drive-through or you leave. There's gonna be no entrance signs right at the west side of the new building.
And as far as the drive-through for the coffee shop, they will be able to turn either left or right coming out of the drive-through?
Yep, they can turn left or right if they wanted to park or leave or go, I guess if they wanted to go to the bank, they could do that, get coffee and go to the bank.
And then my final question is with the new building, do you believe that 2 handicapped parking stalls is sufficient for that new building?
I think that's code, so that's exactly to code. Yep.
Because your existing building shows 6.
Yep, and those are all formulas by ADA and engineering. So if engineering, if that wasn't figured right by engineering, that could be added. And I think there's a provision for us to comply with engineering. Yep, and so what Sherry was saying that, and I think he was mentioning that too, that there's more ADA in front of the office than the building. That's just because the office is actually, 2 levels, 20,000 square foot footprint, so it's based on occupancy. Same holds true for the 6,200 square foot retail building.
But you're gonna have two tenants in the new building, and you feel our requirements are only one for each tenant?
Yes, it goes off and I'm not an expert on the number of stalls, but we've looked at that with engineering, and so it does have the exact amount. And the other thing I will say is that the building is set up, it could be 1 tenant, it could be 2. So it's a multi-tenant building for the ages, hopefully, for more than 5 years.
Thank you. Commissioner, any other questions at this time? Commissioner Heikla?
I'm wondering if you can, the drive-through areas at the bank, you have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lanes? Is there ever a point where traffic fills all 7 of those? I'm just kind of wondering about how the traffic coming in off of Northdale, goes through and then angles and then goes, it's kind of a meandering little route there.
Yeah, and I think actually trends are going the opposite way. So there's less bank traffic through drive-throughs generally across America with more online banking and more alternatives for banking. And so we're actually, and Wells Fargo has a lease there, so those drive-throughs are part of their lease that they have, and we're happy to have them as a tenant. They're a fantastic tenant to have in this building. But I think you've probably seen for yourself less and less. I envision that as, maybe in the future too, as also for parking area. If that ever got reduced, it's a great area for additional employee parking or things like that.
Thank you. Commissioner Schmolke?
So, first of all, the answers you're giving are really helpful. I really appreciate that. And I can certainly see that there has been an awful lot of thought put into the flow of traffic. So great job. I'm going to we start talking about the bank parking area and the flow of the traffic around the bank building to those drive-throughs. And I know people can be in a hurry, right? So let's assume that it's a coffee shop that goes in there and the person coming out takes a left coming back in front of that new building, right? And wraps around to get to the Main Street side and to come around the bank to come out through that 124th exit, right? So is any additional thought put into making sure that that traffic flows at a safe speed coming around there, even if it's adding speed bumps or something like that? Because I just think it might be helpful so that A, maybe we deter some of that, but B, that anybody coming through, they're coming through at a safe speed, knowing that there are cars and so forth using that drive-through area, and it's kind of blind coming around there. And that area getting around the drive-throughs, that one lane is actually pretty narrow. So just kind of some thought about what might be done to help safeten that area up a little.
Right, so speed bumps come up a lot, so there's pros and cons to speed bumps, and I've seen them a lot in my career. One thing that I think we're excited about, and so is Mr. Bailey here as well, is really, and from our team and design work at Westwood, the best traffic calming are gentle curves, and it just naturally slows you down. And the other thing I think that happens is a little loss of perspective on looking at site plans, because people actually, in situations where there's smaller buildings and turns, they go slower than what it looks like on a plan, because you just really can't get up to high speeds. So this really avoids what's happening right now. Right now, it is a straight shot right through, and so those days are over. It's now for those people, and they're going to have to slow down and go through here slow. Speed bumps, if someone's going to go fast, they're going to go fast and then hit the speed bump hard, and I don't know, and it's almost like too late if they're hitting that hard, but I guess.
So the idea is then, you're thinking that if anybody coming along that main street, going through those parking spaces there, they'll naturally slow down because they have to take a left, first of all, to come along the side now of that parking, the west side there, and that it should be, we're not anticipating any speeding or high volume traffic.
Yep, that's what we
Okay.
feel about this design. So as you're going south on Northdale and you turn into the new access, which is farther, as we talked about, so much farther away from Main Street now, as you come in, you're going to already have a gentle right as you come towards the office building, and then you're going to go through a smaller little lane there, and then have to take a left, and then another left. We're making it actually a little bit more difficult for people to get to the bank.
One more question, if I can. So we've talked a lot about the incoming traffic in terms of the exiting traffic, coming out of the new parking lot area, again, back into that area where traffic is coming in. What about the crossover there, if people want to, either exit on Northdale or exit at 124th? What about that flow? Are we concerned about the volume of traffic trying to cross there to get to either of those exits?
Right.
Am I clear on where I'm talking about?
Yep.
Okay.
I think maybe the first thing to think about, and what's really nice about this particular situation, because you always want to, everyone talks about mixed use, and you want to do mixed use, and how can we better utilize land. In this particular situation of an office retail mixed use as opposed to apartments with retail, and the traffic that apartments generate and the day parts that they generate, really the nice thing about this is when when office workers are leaving to go home, it's not the busy time for retail, for people coming in as well. So we imagine if we are going to be fortunate enough to have coffee here, that everyone's coming in during that time, and only a few are leaving. And when you have coffee, because of the wait that you have to have, waiting for your mocha or I just get regular coffee, so it's a little quicker. But that pulses. It's not throngs of people leaving at the same time. Right? Everything's pulsed, almost like metered lanes. It self-meters itself, like at a highway freeway ramp.
So I think what, maybe another consideration to the example you're giving then is that the incoming traffic during those peak times then, you're anticipating more going into that parking lot for the new building and the coffee shop versus continuing straight to go to the bank per se. Because that's the cross traffic that I'm concerned about is the traffic that's continuing straight ahead to go to the bank building when you've got traffic coming out of this new parking area.
Right. What I would say to that is that we're in a really favorable situation because it's a large piece of land with a large parking lot with right now 220 stalls, that are underutilized and just sitting there. And so what is the best way to utilize that? And we feel that over time that what you're looking at right now is the culmination of the traffic calming, the lack of stacking, how to get people in and out and still be an amenity to both the office and the community at the same time. So with the day parting chart and when the office is busy and when they're coming and going and the bank, it really is a nice situation that we have on our hands here.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think this is a good use of the space. It's a corner that, to me, right now, I think it looks pretty industrial versus, something as you look in other cities where they're building up a lot of these spaces. It's like this is a really nice first thing you see coming off of Highway 10 Bridge and so forth. And so I compliment you on the design and the appearance and so forth. I think you can tell our big concern is that traffic area because we do have many areas in the city directly across Main Street, right, where we've got a lot of traffic concerns, the movement of traffic in and out of that Costco and Menards area, for example. And my concern would be not wanting to duplicate or replicate that same type of situation. So hence the reason for so many questions about that is just, we want to make sure that the community isn't frustrated with that design, right? And that it is safe for people coming in and out. And again, with the apartment buildings that are being built as well, just down from here, I think that's going to add some additional traffic coming in and out of here as well. Now, they would also have that opportunity to turn on 124th to kind of avoid, well, they can't turn left in there, that's correct. So they'd be turning in from 124th anyway. But again, it's going to probably introduce more cross traffic around that entrance. So I just want to be, I can't be clear enough. It's like we've got to make sure that we aren't just duplicating a quick decision. Is the car in front of me taking a right, continuing straight? Is somebody cutting me across? I think that there has to be a lot of consideration at that point specifically to make sure that it's safe.
I feel that there are limited decisions here because Northdale is a right in, right out. So first of all, you eliminate there is only one thing for someone to do when they're leaving. They're either going to go Northdale or 124th. That's it. And from there, we just feel everything's been calmed down in the parking lot. And it's going to be up to our fine citizens to make sure that they're doing a good job through here.
Okay, thank you very much.
Commissioner Geisler.
So shifting away from
Okay.
parking and transit here, I'll half shift first. The engineering comments did state that they were recommending an EV charging station somewhere in here.
Yeah.
We're talking about future. Is that something you're planning on doing?
Yes, it didn't get I think in the summary on the sheet, it maybe just got summarized up with engineering comments, but yep. So
Are you-
that-
Whereabouts are you looking to put that? In that center island block where you got the new street light or where you've already got power run?
Yep, so we've looked at a couple different places for that. We'd probably work with the vendor too that does it all the time. And actually, Westwood is working across the country with different vendors. This has become more and more popular. And there's ADA questions, so one of the things we'll look at when we put in the electric charging station, it needs to be ADA accessible as well.
One comment just for you to consider, MPCA, the Pollution Control Agency, does have funds available for electrification.
Oh, yeah.
I'd encourage you to go take a look at that. They're in phase 2, those monies are coming. They should coincide with the timing of your project, but don't quote me on that.
Okay. I'm counting on my team to write that down, so they won't forget that. That's a good tip, thank you.
Well, if it encourages further electrification, I'm all for that.
Right.
But shifting then to the further green space, your landscape plan here, I like the plan overall, like not a comment necessarily in there. However, your species are not identified on the landscaping plan. Would you be willing to accept a condition that your species selections are approved by the city for the approval?
Yeah,
of
so
this?
that's already a condition, and the actual details go into the construction documents. So as part of the application process, it doesn't require exact detail of those. So,
That's okay.
yep.
Okay. We usually see them as
Okay.
usually.
Yeah, they'll be
so
on the
that's why.
final landscape plans that they submit at the time of building permit.
Perfect, great,
Yep.
thank you.
And Commission, any other questions?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Casey?
A couple of things. Was there any thought to putting arrows on the drive aisles, to kind of direct traffic?
Yep, so there will be arrows on the drive aisles, yes.
Okay, because that bank traffic that right turn in off the new south entrance, that, if I'm going to be led around the corner, goes straight between the parking spots in front of the office building, and then down between the parking spaces just to the north of the office building, and then around the bank. Is that right? So I think that would be helpful to have those.
I thought we had
You
with
know,
us a
those
plan that
arrows.
showed arrows. But you're talking about adding arrows around the bank?
No,
Or-
just mainly around the entrance and maybe of the front of the
Yes.
office building.
Yep.
Just to kind of direct traffic. We won't see them in the winter, will we? But, just a guideline.
We do have a plan with that, and I'm sorry that we don't have that here, but we can work with Scott on that. We're all about arrows, and so that's an easy fix.
Sure,
They can also do directional signage,
yeah.
different spots
Yeah.
that are up and on poles.
And then one other question about your trash enclosure on the new retail building. Are those the big bins that roll out?
Yeah,
Or-
so they will roll, so the service truck will pull up parallel to the, almost the same way you would do it in an apartment building, right? So where the trash is inside the building, and then they'll roll it out before hours, so before 5 AM. They'll come before the drive-through is in use, and just roll them out, service them, and then roll them back in.
Okay, and the truck itself will enter again that main entrance off of Northdale and will,
And
can
it'll
it,
turn, it'll turn, stop there, and then continue north, and then go around the building, and then exit.
okay. Okay, yeah, thank you.
Can I try a little bit?
Yeah.
So I was on the website, I've got 6 handicap parking spots right now. As I read the requirements for parking spaces between 151 and 200, I need 6. For parking spaces between 20 and 50, I need 2. So I'm going from 6 to either 7 or 8 with this plan. Number one. Number two, Wells Fargo and making sure they're a happy client is my most important thing here. And I've had a lot of discussions with them about making sure their drive-through works. They've approved this plan. There are some directional signs that I'm required to put in the lot for their drive-through traffic, which will be, in place. Speed bumps, it's in my interest And I've gotten a lot of comments in the last year about people blowing through here to go to the drive-through and people having issues. I think this is a better solution than the straight shot they've got right now from a safety standpoint. And when we do have issues, they call Wells Fargo corporate, and they're just a tenant, and so I get that. I have never gotten a speeding or a parking issue, but they have. Finally, the deal with Wells Fargo is they get the parking right up front. They get to name the building. It's their building. From a public relations standpoint, they will be top on the pylon. However, they will get the front parking spots after I conform to the ADA requirements. Okay, so one thing I wanted to talk about was speed bumps. I mean, I'd like to be able to make that call, you know, after the dust settles a little bit here to see what it looks like. But it's in my interest to make sure that goes right. Thank you.
Are those spots right in front of the Wells Fargo, are those labeled Wells Fargo parking only, or?
They are right now. Currently Wells Fargo has 12 spots in that triangular area. And I am not in compliance with the ADA requirements the way the handicap parking is right now. It's frankly too far away from the entrance. So when it gets collapsed right on front of the building, they will get the ADA will get 5 or 6. It's either 5 or 6, whatever the requirement is. They'll be right up front, and then Wells Fargo will be identified either on either side of that or on the north side of the building. They'll get 12 spots, the next best 12 spots. Hopefully that answered the question.
One more follow-up, mentioning the garbage truck brought it to mind. Service deliveries, since you have a retail space there and trucks coming in and out, you know, I'm looking at where they're gonna park and, you know, assuming they're coming in the back, if ideally through those access doors that you have on that elevation, there isn't really a way for a hand truck or a trolley to get through there from a sidewalk perspective along the drive-through. Or they're gonna park in front, which is basically your only through lane to get to the drive-through if it's during business hours. I think some level of consideration of when you're gonna get your service deliveries would be good, since those will be during business hours, presumably. You know, it would make sense to me to have some level of easy access off the back there, since you do have those access doors, so that someone can get a hand truck in and out of there, especially if you have a coffee shop. They're gonna be bringing in boxes of food and things like that, so just some level of.
So that's a good catch, and I'm going to give Scott Queering credit on that. So he's already caught that a few weeks back after we made the application. So those have been added on our civil plan. Sherry's added those already. So on the rear, so for hand trucks easier to get.
Sidewalk.
So right through, across here, yep. So they'll get in. But then typically it's becoming standard now to not do deliveries during service hours, because that's for customers. And the employees can't even take deliveries anymore they're too busy. Yeah.
Okay.
Question back to the trash collection. Looking at the site plan, it looks like the roll-up door faces the drive-through lane?
Yes.
So the trucks would come through the drive-through lane?
No, trucks won't go through drive-through lane, can't get through the drive-through lane. There'll be a bar anyway to stop them, you know, one of those bars. So they'll pull up just much like in an apartment building. They'll come in, they'll take a right, they'll park as close as they can. So their vehicle will face north. So their vehicle will be facing north. And then they'll stop and they'll just hand roll them out, put them on the truck, and then the truck will then dump them in.
All right,
Yep.
thank you. And Commission, any other questions? Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Commission, thoughts, considerations? Motions? Commissioner Casey?
I think it's an attractive project. It makes some good use of vacant land that's, it's asphalt now, but it could be something better. So, I will make a motion in planning case 1911 that we move to approve the proposed site plan with the following conditions. And there are 10 of them listed, and I don't believe we've added on to that, right? We're assuming some things are in the engineering comments, so I'll have the motion list those 10 conditions.
I'll second it.
Motion by Casey, second by Knobloch. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye, opposed? Motion passes. This is a decision by the planning commission. Congratulations. Good luck. And any appeal would be to the city council within 10 business days. Do we have a timeline on when you think you might be?
Late summer is our goal here. We're gonna be doing it in 2 phases. We've gotta come in and be respectful of the Wells Fargo tenants there. So we're gonna clean up that front area, get that parking all put back in place. Then we'll drop back and start working on the building. Again, just traffic and overall respecting the tenants and making sure they get access to their office space.
All right, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, on to other business. Mr. Harlicker. Mr. Harlicker, anything under other business from you?
Looks like the Honda building is almost done. We went out and did some final inspections today. All the landscaping is in. Building and fire route they're doing their final walkthrough. They've been operating on a temporary CO since they opened up. So they're almost ready to go. Same with the Chrysler building. Their building's down. They're getting ready to install the new parking there where the old building is. Riverdale Station Apartments are moving along. I believe they'd like to have the smaller of the buildings, the one furthest to the west or away from Northdale Boulevard. They've had leasing meetings last week, I believe it was, kind of pre-tenant meetings. And they're hoping to have that completed this fall and starting to bring tenants in. So things are moving along.
Is there any further work updating on their commercial building on the corner?
Not at this point. We haven't had any discussions with them about that.
Because their plan was for another coffee shop there.
Yep.
We're gonna have coffee shops competing here pretty quick.
Yeah, there were some very tight circulation issues with that site.
Yes, there
I think
was.
that, the one you were looking at today was tight. So they were working on refining those plans.
And what's next month's schedule look like?
At this point, there is no planning commission meeting next month. We did not get any applications, so you have a free month.
All right, middle of summer or start of summer, that'd be nice. And commission, anybody have anything under other business? Hearing none, is anyone ready to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Motion by Casey, second by Schmolke, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Meeting's adjourned.